but mute yourself while you're not talking.
Where's the mute button?
Welcome back to another exciting weekly installment of the Modzu Hangout. This week we're going to be talking with Mick from Mayhems in Britain about water cooling, his different products that he's made, color change, whatevers, pastels, very famous for his pastels, and hopefully we'll get some insight into where he's going to be going in the future with his products. But first I'm going to introduce you to our crowd of miscreants that we have to pin him down and get the information. First we've got Bill Owen.
Hey everybody, great to be back in the Hangout again.
Coming with us again, Jesse, Captain Curry Sauce.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
Someone that we don't see very often on these Hangouts, but Alex Petrevens.
Hello. I'm not here very much. I'm really not.
Actually,
I'm on time at least.
Indeed. Actually, I think this is your first time on the Hangout, isn't it?
No. But it's the first time I've been on time.
And the guest of the week, we have Mick from Mayhems.
Hi guys.
Mick, known you, and Alex as well, known you for several years online in the community, and I love the fact that on the description of on your website that you say that you've always been a longtime member and participated in the enthusiast community for PC liquid cooling. And that's so true. I think you're the only one in your realm of the market that connects with the community, wouldn't you say?
I can't actually answer that. I think, yeah, we do like to connect. As you know, I like to annoy a lot of people. So my connection is probably a little bit different to most people. But, yeah, I think Mayhems, in fact, the whole team now, we're all starting to connect more often and see what's going on and try and work with the community, because at the end of the day, if we don't have that communication, we don't get sales, you know. And it's the community, it's the people out there that help us, that help manufacture and help make products better, basically.
Yeah. So why don't you explain to anybody that's not aware of who you are, what you do for Mayhems and how you got started into this hobby and then eventually became a business for you?
The first thing I did was learn how to make a good cup of tea. It was quite, it was quite interesting and keep everybody happy in that, but no. Started gold maybe 8 years ago, where I was working on an arcade system called C-Max, and there was several coolants on the market, and basically none of the coolants out there did what I wanted to do. So I decided to create some dyes, and from them dyes I made them super powerful, and basically people wanted to buy them off me, and I sold them for about £5. We made some profit from it and remade the dyes, and basically exploded from there. You know, and eventually I moved into coolants as well. And the first set of coolants I ever made failed miserably, caused a lot of problems, but after a lot of work, a lot of messing about, a lot of playing, we managed to actually make it really good, and then people started buying it.
But you've, well, how many years have you been in business with Mayhems?
If you start from where we first started, it's 8 years, but we've gone through several different name changes, because it was called WC Coolants at first, and I didn't think of anything about it, and everybody said water closet coolants. You know, and I was like, nightmare! So, my nickname at the time was Mayhem, Tactical Mayhem, so we took the name Mayhems and created the business out of that, and expanded it more. And eventually we've become a limited company now, so it's now Mayhems Solutions Ltd.
Wasn't it the dyes were the very first product that you released to the market?
Yes, it was. Yeah. The first dyes we released were about 20-30 times powerfuler than anything else on the market. And what we did was we did a lot of research into dyes. I did a lot of research into dyes and chemicals, And we went through several manufacturers, and eventually we found a supplier who actually supplied us with pure dyes. So now, and we've been with them now for 8 years. But over the last year, we've actually done some more improvement on them dyes, and we've changed the chemical formula of them because we've now fixed this colour change issue that everybody's having.
A color change issue in regards to what? Give us more details on it.
Well, something we were talking about earlier on was about the likes of what's called JZ2 Sense, where he's got a high heat system. And basically, when he used red or any light colours such as yellow and orange, what would happen is the copper and the flux in the system would leach into the colours. So when you're using light colours such as yellow, red, orange, they would actually change colour because you're adding a blue-green hue to it. So you'd end up with a brown or like different colours. And what we've done is we've now invented a new way to use with our dyes that stops them particles infusing into the liquid and actually changing the colour of the dyes.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, on high heat systems, it's more stable.
So red stays red now?
Yes, to a point. You will still see a little bit of colour change if you've got a really unclean system, but you can now take it up to about 65C where it should stay standard. It should stay that colour.
Well, that's nice.
If you use bleach or something like that to clean your system out, we can't fix that. You know? And trust me, Germans like to use bleach.
Wait.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a joke.
Well, when people do stuff like that, which is kind of crazy, you in response as a manufacturer that caters to this market, you came out with like a cleaning kit then, right?
Yeah, we did. Again, it was we had a lot of people from Germany where they were using household cleaners to clean the system. So what we did, we spoke to car manufacturers. I also spoke to HVAC systems, which are, you know, like your air conditioning units. And we found out how they clean their systems and the best practice for them. What we then did is we took their chemical solutions, changed them around a bit, talked to a manufacturer, and we actually had the what you see in front of you, the part 1 and part 2 of the Blitz cleaning system. We had that manufactured for us now. And basically that's now what everybody calls it, the top cleaning system out there for water cooling PCs. But when we created that system, because of the chemicals you use, we put absolutely everything we can in there that we can stuff in that box to give you the best experience possible. So you get your safety goggles, you get your gloves, measuring cup, pH testers, everything you need, a good set of instructions as well. It is a complex kit, but it does, it does the job it says on the box.
Would you say that most people out there probably do not know how to properly clean their loop? And one thing is when you get a radiator for the first time, a lot of people don't flush them out because, and Captain Curry Sauce could validate this, how often have you got a new radiator and there's no instructions to flush it out before you use it?
I don't think I've ever seen those. It's one of those things. That's one of the things I feel about this whole industry is that there's so much knowledge that's out there, but none of the manufacturers like to include that. And I feel it would be great if they would start including basic things like, hey, make sure you flush using distilled water, not just, dunk it in the bathtub with you. So, those are the things I would like to see change. Same thing with water blocks. I mean, even if I would use a water block for the first time, I still rinse it with distilled water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Alex? Alex used to run Petra's Water Cool Shop, which catered to the DIY liquid coolers. Well, what is your experiences on that, Alex?
Well, not much different than Jesse's. I mean, no manufacturer's ever really included much in the way of instructions with any of their water cooling products when it came to cleaning or maintenance or anything like that. And at one point you actually had companies putting things like warranty void if removed stickers on the side of their blocks. A Danger Den is one example of that. Now they were doing it to indicate that their blocks had been pressure tested, but that caused a lot of users to actually be kind of afraid of opening up any of their water cooling stuff just for basic cleaning or maintenance or anything like that. So most of the response from the manufacturers historically is basically been the opposite of everything that the enthusiast community has been trying to get people to do.
And you mentioned the stickers. EK still does that on the GPU blocks.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
Yeah, so I mean, Mick, you're a godsend for us because you're the one that actually takes the time to educate people, pick up the slack that these other companies seem to be ignoring.
I don't know if we're picking up the slack. We're just trying to change the community for the better. I think that I think at the end of the day, everybody needs to understand water cooling. The old hypothesis of your coolant is the one that knackers things up, or one company blames another. It's wrong. It's totally wrong. A lot of these companies out there, and I mean a lot of companies, we do all talk to each other. We do send samples to each other. Like, for instance, XSPC have just sent us 2 of their nano little pumps for testing. Some user complained about one of our fluids. We talked to Paul at XSPC. He sent us 2 of his pumps so we can check to make sure it's working fine. But what it turned out to be the radiator that's caused the problem. Again, not from cleaning it. In the forums we read, you can actually see pictures of flux and metal particles. However, again, we were the first ones to be kind of blamed for it. But we're kind of now accepting that fact that we will be the first port of call for most people to blame things, because we're probably one of the most common factors in modern day water cooling systems. And people have always blamed the fluid. It's part and parcel of the package, and our job isn't just to provide users with fluid. Our job is also to provide you with the correct answers. And if we can't find the answers, we will keep researching and researching until we get the answer we need.
Thank you. At least as somebody is taking the time to research and develop those solutions. My experience with, unfortunately, with DIY liquid cooling is most of the manufacturers, in my opinion, they don't invest enough time in their research development of products.
I don't know, I can argue that, because one of the problems with research and development is one of the things we've set up is the new support system. And what we now look for, Ian, the guy that I've brought in for support, because he's a lot better than I am, what he actually does is he spends a lot of time looking at all the emails we get. And what he'll do is we'll pick out common factors, and then we'll go and physically buy that kit, and we will test that kit. It's not a 5-minute job, it really does take a lot of time, but we'll then try and find the problem ourselves, and if you find a commonality between them all, we normally can find the answer what the problem is, and then either fix that problem, find a solution to that problem, or warn about that problem.
Now you're saying about you're taking the time with your own products, or you're doing this for other companies?
We do it for we do it with other company stuff as well. It's not just our products. If you look in our cupboard in there, we have every single radiator that's ever been manufactured in the last 4 years. We have blocks, lots of different types of blocks: copper, plexi, plastic. We buy every single type of block. We try to buy every single type of pump as well. We buy the tubing, anything you can think of that's including water cooling. We have every single fitting by every manufacturer, and we will go and physically buy that ourselves.
So, but in some ways, you're kind of doing the research for the other companies that just aren't doing that though on their own. You're not necessarily getting paid by them to do that research. You're kind of doing it because it protects you as well.
Yeah, we've never been paid by any company to do any research. It's basically for our knowledge, because if a user comes up to us and says this doesn't work, we need to know the answer. Now, if we contact another company, they might turn around and say, well, that's your problem. Whereas if we turn around, we buy the product, we can turn around and say, yes, it's our problem. No, it's not our problem. However, this is the fix for it.
Right, but so what you're doing is you're protecting yourselves in a way, and like when you're part of the equation and where your product's being used with these other manufacturers, and you're taking samples of their products and you're testing it in your own laboratory, you're finding out the research that they should have found out on their own.
I think the biggest problem with water cooling is there's so many standards, and every company has their own standards, but there is no set standard. And it
That
would
is
be
a
lovely.
problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be lovely to have a set of standards that everybody agrees to, and we all sign up to them standards, and we all stick to them standards, and we self-regulate. You know, you'll get companies like Thermaltake who will create their own standard that nobody has ever seen before. You know, it's a total invention and a hypothesis that nobody's ever heard of. It's like reinventing the wheel. Then you've got companies that will create a logo and say ultimately so and so, and we're all sitting there scratching our heads thinking, well, what the hell's that? But there is no set of standards. There should be, like tubing sizes, there should be a set, maybe 2 or 3 sizes of tubing, and that should be it. Fittings, 2 or 3 sizes, because the more you put in there, the more problems users have, and new people to the industry suddenly sit there and never understand. It makes it really difficult for them. It would be nice to have a nice set of standards where everybody communicated, everybody talked to each other on a professional level, and we rolled that out throughout the whole industry.
Well, yeah, it's a lot like the auto industry.
Yeah.
You know, standards. Oh, Captain Curry Sauce and Petra, what do you guys think about that, having standards?
I think that would be really, really great, especially with the tubing and the fitting. You know, just having 3 sizes, small, medium, large. I think that is perfect because I think for the past year and a half or 2 years, I've only used 1/2 inch. That's like the only fitting size I use, or a tubing size. I mean both. I mean, that's like the only thing I use. So for me, having a different size doesn't matter. And I know back in the day we used to have, well, not back in the day, but still, the flex tubing days of using, you know, those super thick tubing to increase flow. And Alex might speak more to that, but I never felt like it really helped having such a big tubing to allow for better flows so you can get extra performance out. But I think there should be standards, especially for radiators too, like in terms of each radiator before it leaves the factory should be at least rinsed once.
Yes.
You know, and I was going to ask Mick, since he said he has a closet full of radiators, who is the worst who's the worst when it comes to having the least amount of quality? But we'll get to that later.
Me first.
Oh, Bill, in the front. What's your answer?
All right, we'll let Alex answer.
Okay, well, on the tubing front, just to address what Jesse was saying about tubing ID influencing and its influence on pressure drop and therefore flow and performance. I mean, it does matter, but it depends on what end of the scale you're talking about. Like the difference between, say, 1/2 inch ID and 3/8 ID on flow rate and thus ultimate performance really isn't that meaningful. In fact, it for the most part doesn't matter. There are some corner cases where it does, but you know, for the most part, that's fine. It's when you start getting down to much smaller tubing, like 1/4 inch and under, that you start seeing really significant flow rate impacts and impacts on performance. So, but almost no one anymore uses 1/4 inch. I mean, that was kind of more of a thing with, wasn't it some of the German manufacturers years ago who were like real crazy about 1/4 inch tubing on everything? Yes, yes.
So, there were quite a few of the modders that were trying to get that really nice tight look going for a little while too.
Yeah. But the tubing thing aside, taking a longer view to it from a standardization standpoint, I think we're actually in a much better place now than we were 10 yeyears ago. I mean, at least for the most part, everyone's using the same thread type on their fittings.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that was a big problem for a lot of new users years ago, because you had some people using 3/8 pipe parallel, so 3/8 G38 or G38. Others using the normal 1/4 inch pipe standards.
And then the BSPP.
Yeah, that's the G1 quarter inch BSPP, British Standard Pipe Parallel. And then you also had Swiftech and Gabe's obsession with NPSM.
Oh.
that had the O-ring seat in the object you're trying to thread the barb into rather than the O-ring seat in the barb, and so for the most part you couldn't just grab a normal barb and put it in there. You had to do silly things like stacking 2 O-rings to get it to seal with a 1/4 inch a G1 quarter barb, and so we're past that now, and that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Standards, I think, would really help, though, when it comes to hardline, because, I mean, you guys can speak more to that than I can, but it seems like, with both metric and imperial measurements I'm seeing for some of the hardline stuff, you have a bunch of different companies making different fittings. With compression fittings and with hardline, it becomes more of an issue. But like I said, overall, I think we're a lot better now than we were before.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Mick?
Yeah, we have improved on a lot of stuff, but you do get manufacturers who still want to change it. They want to try and get you to buy their tubing, their fitting, their radiator, which is fully understandable. However, instead of creating a crazy size such as 13mm where everybody's using 12 and 16, it makes things a bit harder. And it makes it difficult for new users. What you want is the new user to walk into this hobby and go, I'll pick that, that, and that, and that's it. They can walk away happy. But if you've got so many different sizes, it just gets confusing, and it's not fair. It's not fair on the actual users. Never, stuff the manufacturers is the users. It's our users that keep our hobby going. You need to cater to them, not anybody else. And if you all cater to your users and the users, and you understand your users, basically sales will pick up. We will do more. You will see more newbie people come into this hobby, and that's what we need. We need the young blood to come into this hobby, bring their talent with them, and expand this hobby. We're fighting a war against heat reduction and everything like that, and if we don't start picking up the pace, we could lose this war. So it's vitally important that everybody starts working with each other.
Well, I think you're right there, Mick. It's perfectly okay for a company to have a top-to-bottom product line where they have every piece of the puzzle, but to introduce such a product line in a way that could potentially sabotage a user experience because they stray from your product line, I think that's not only doing the customer a disservice, but it's doing yourself a disservice, because you just had a customer who bought a bunch of your parts and is now having a problem because they bought one other thing that wasn't from you. And that's not a way for a customer to have a good impression of your company or any other company.
I think, and what it is it's I hate to use the word greed, but when you make things kind of more proprietary, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to separate yourself from the market mainstream. Like, for example, 16mm OD fittings and tubing, and you're the only source for that. I can see why it's kind of lucrative to do that, but as Mick says, that when you do that, you're isolating that consumer from other options, because maybe down the road they want to swap something out, and then they have to go back to you, and then maybe your retailer doesn't have it in stock, and because you're in England or somewhere else in the world, it's very difficult to get that part. For example, this morning I was putting together an EK water block on a 980 GTX, and I was putting the backplate on. It was the EK backplate, and they forgot to include the M2 by 6mm machine screws in the box, and I'm like, frick, I've got a ton of machine screws inventory and I sell machine screws. M2s is like such an odd size that I didn't really have a spare, so I was like, dang it, now I've got to either wait a few days to contact my retailer that I got the plate from, or reach out to EK and wait. And and then that's just a kind of an example, but one thing is, like Mick, as business owners, online stores, we have customers that are around the world, and if you're dealing with somebody like, say, he's in New Zealand, he's on the island of New Zealand, and he needs a specific type of screw, and it may be just something that his hardware store never carries because there's no justification in having an inventory of it, you're kind of forcing them to have to, wait and get it from you. And so anything we can do to try to open the market to, there's accessibility for whatever you need more easily, it's a good thing. So
Imperial and metrics, one of the biggest problems as well is, speaking of your screws and everything, is there's always arguments between Imperial and metric, and to be honest, I don't think you're ever going to solve that problem, because you've got EK, who are European, you've got Aqua Tuning, you've got Alpha Cool, Aqua Computer. They're all European. Then you've got Swift Tech, Primer Chill. They're all American, using different standards. Then when the import from, when a lot of it comes from Japan, you kind of, again, you go for the American side of it. So you get a big mishmash of screws. It's really, I think that's really difficult, and one of the harder aspects of actually trying to standardize things.
There was a standardization a few years ago in regards to the spacing for like 280 size radiators. Yeah. There wasn't it like a difference between like,
well, it was what with 120 radiators. There was, with Thermochill, it was 20 millimeters, if I remember correctly, and then everybody went down to 15 mils.
That's right.
And obviously now that's kind of a bit of a mistake. The reason why that was, with 20 mils, you actually got a better airflow path, but because manufacturers wanted to shrink the size of the radiator, they all went to 15 mil. I'm glad everybody moved that way. Yes, you lose a little bit of airflow path, but at the end of the day, everybody's reached near enough the precipice of what radiators can cool, you know, and how they can cool. Having that little space only increased your air cooling capability by about 1C, you know, so it's nothing magical.
Okay, so on this topic, this is interesting because you're the first to introduce the use of glass as a hardline tubing. So now, but I'm going to guess that you're probably going to remain that only manufacturer offering the glass tubing. I could be wrong. What has the sales been like for the glass tubing?
Well, we've actually, AlphaCool copied us and then turned around and said that, yeah, they've copied us. It's not a problem. They turn around. I actually called them out, as now normally I will do. And basically they're turning around saying, oh, it's been used in industrial tubing and all this lot, which is a load of rubbish. But, you know, people like to talk out the backside sometimes. But it's, at the end of the day, it was, would you believe it or not, it was actually B negative that inspired this type of tubing. And the reason why it inspired it, he turned around and said it would be impossible to do glass tubing. And to me, that's turning around and asking me, that's a challenge, you know, so we did it. We tested it, it worked. We tested it again, it worked. We threw the PC round a bit, it didn't break, it didn't crack, it still worked, and it was like, let's get this out. You know, it's probably, I personally think it's one of the best types of tubing you can actually buy once you get over the fear of working with glass. When you get over that fear of working with glass, that is one of the best bits of tubing. Now, AlphaCool have done a frosted version of glass, and I've got to admit, they've done a damn good job of it. It looks really nice, and you get a really nice frosted effect if you put a little LED near it. So that's something they've done themselves. So there is, and the thing is with glass tubing as well, you can actually, would you believe it or not, glass tubing also.
We have a technical difficulty here, guys. Hold on just a minute.
We'll bring Mick back.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
Oh, did we go offline?
Nope, we're not offline, but I hit the wrong button and.
And Mick was ejected into the void.
He's there. I see him.
He's there. Yeah, he's muted.
Yeah. There we go.
There
we go.
Sorry.
All
right. Go on.
I got cut off. I don't know where I got cut off.
Go ahead.
With glass, one of the things with glass, it actually irradiates heat, it extracts heat, so you can actually say that glass is also can be part of a radiator. When you add glass into a system, it actually helps eject a couple more C of heat out of your system, because it's an excellent heat remover and heat conductor and distributor, whereas plastic insulates it.
That's true. Do you? I didn't notice, but on your site, do you offer like tools for cutting the glass?
We don't really offer tools. We've been thinking about it, but you can actually jump on eBay, spend £4, and you can get a cheap tool that will do the job. You can use a tile cutter. You can buy one from your local DIY store for about, I think it's about $20. You know, why? One of the problems, again, what I've got with manufacturers is they buy these tools, they stick their name on, then they add an extra $20 on. And it's like, why, when you can actually, why don't you just teach users what's out there? Go to a pipe store and get one yourself. It's cheaper. You know, we don't need to sell you something like that. We can just teach you how to cut it. I mean, glass we can cut within 3 seconds, and we can snap it within 3 seconds, and then it takes about 50 seconds of sanding it down and smoothing it off. We don't need to sell you them tools. They're easily available anywhere in the world.
Okay, you mentioned that B-Neg was the one that brought up this idea of using glass. Do you know if he's like made an online guide, or if it's in any of his work logs where you can see the steps involved?
He wasn't the one that brought up glass. He inspired me to do it, sort of thing. He just mentioned, it was more of an inspirational. Well, it can't be done, and I was like, well, yeah, it can actually.
I don't think anybody can do an RGB remote controlled fluid.
My God.
Yes, Jesse and I were talking about that before the show, trying to see if we could get Mick to do a Wi-Fi-enabled RGB fluid. You just have like your Mayhems app on your phone, and you spend 20 minutes trying to get your coolant to actually connect to your Wi-Fi network, and then you just hit the button.
It's possible. You can do it. You can do it.
So that's what, 200 pounds a liter?
No. It is possible. It can be done. You'll be surprised what you can actually do. We've created gold coolants. We've created pure silver coolants. We did that chameleon, but we just couldn't sell it worldwide. And it is possible to create an RGB coolant. It just needs a lot more development. And it's not. I don't really want to talk it on live, but it's not what most people will think. It's definitely not activated by heat.
Well, speaking of new product, you're going to be releasing an all-in-one DIY liquid cooling kit, the Notorious kit, right?
Yeah, it's not an all-in-one. It's more of a it's a build-it-yourself kit. But yeah,
It's everything's in there all-in-one, and that all the components you need for a DIY kit.
Like magic. I'll go and get one.
Let's check it out. And I love the name of it, Notorious. And those of you that have known Nick for a few years know that he can be notorious because he speaks his mind.
There we go. That's actually our kit there. It's the Notorious kit. We've got a reason for calling it Notorious because I like upsetting a lot of people. So we've called it Notorious for that reason, because we know that we're going to upset a few resellers and everything at the price we've got it for. But the kit basically is for new users, and the idea is we actually do not make a profit off this. There is no, we can only sell it. There's no money made on this kit whatsoever. In fact, we're actually giving you the radiator free on purpose. Now, the reason for that is we want to bring new users into the water cooling scene at a price they can actually physically afford. Everybody always says custom cooling kits cost an absolute fortune. Well, this kit is priced, what, $45 above a low-end, a medium-end AEO, all-in-one cooler. We're about £120 cheaper than the equivalent high-end kit. So and it contains absolutely. I think actually, if you can bring up a picture on the website.
Yep, I will.
Probably be even cheaper with that open box discount you're about to give us, right, Mick?
This one's mine. And what we've done on the kit, is we've taken what we consider either the best that we can get our hands on at the cheapest price possible, or we've, like with the block, what we've done is the block's changeable. You can buy any block you want. So we'll give you a standard block that does quite well with the water cooling kit. The fans, we give you the Dark Side, made by Dark Side fans, and the
Dasmod, yeah,
made by Dasmod. Absolute brilliant fans, lovely.
It's the Typhoon GT.
Typhoon GT. Because we use the quad radiator, they push a lot of CFM through the radiator, and what we found is they literally are perfect match for our radiator.
Oh, yeah.
So you get the best fans for what we're giving you. We've also included the EK res and pump. The reason behind it, it's basically a VDC pump right? And on that DDC pump, you've actually got a what's it called? A heatsink on it, so it keeps it nice and cool.
Oh yeah.
It's a high-end pump and radiator, a high-end pump and decent reservoir. Now that can cool. We've tested it now. You can actually cool 2 480s with it, no problems, and it will move the water through 2 480s. You get the cleaning kit. You get the. This might annoy a few people. You get barrel fittings. You get the coolant, a clear coolant, and you get 3 dyes and basically everything you need. The only thing you don't get is the instructions, because if I have to write the instructions out for every piece of kit on here, it's going to take a few days and it'll cost money. So basically, we've packaged all this into the box, done it as cheaply as possible, and getting it out to the users as cheaply as possible.
Mick, I would love to see you do instructions. I have a feeling they'll be really fun to watch or read.
Listen, you bloody twit, you ought to be water cooling, you fucking kid.
See this, it fits on there now, fuck off. What do you mean? I don't know what dye to put in.
Mick, which retailers will this kit be available through? Do you know already?
My decision was to give none of them it. Absolutely none. I don't want anybody making money off that kit. And I'm being serious. Nobody makes money off this kit. It's simply we sell the kit to new users and they get it at a price like that. So none of our retailers can have it. Now, several of them have asked and we've turned around and told them all to fuck off.
Maybe what you should do is, before somebody orders, ask them like 5 questions about water cooling, and based on their answer, you're eligible to buy the kit, or no, you're not eligible.
Every question wrong, you can have it.
And I'm pretty sure Jeremy, aka Eel, our good friend, he can give us a good list of questions to ask as well.
Yes, that's a great idea. Have the like the crypto thing on the web page when ordering it. You've got to fill that out. And it's
the hilarious thing is a lot of people have found they can't buy it, and what we've done is if you look on our website, if you bought before, you can't buy it.
You're limited to one only.
You know, a lot of people say, we can't buy it, it won't give me a shipping price. It's like, yeah, clearly we don't ship that. We want new users, we want to inspire new users, and if the people that have been water cooling for years buy this, it kind of defeats the point of the object. We're not releasing lots of kits, we're not out to attack any company or belittle them in any way or show that you can do it really cheaply. We just want to inspire new users to come to the water cooling. I really, really want to see more younger generation and new users do water cooling. There's not enough. You know.
Well, I agree.
Rochambeau? Okay. Well, Mick, if your resellers want to sell that kit, they can. They have to not be lazy, though. The kit is off-the-shelf parts. I mean, I've been through this. This is, you pick the same parts, or you pick the parts you want in your kit, and you offer the kit. I mean, are you guys selling it for a profit? No, that would be their choice to do the same thing to get people into the market.
Yeah,
it's up to them.
I mean, it is up to them. But luckily, because we can get the deals, basically because we're not making any profit, it's kind of we've got it so cheap. But what you've got to remember is that with resellers, they have to make a profit. They have staff to pay. My staff are paid on peanuts on purpose. You know, they're all thrown in the corner in the monkey cage. We throw them peanuts, they're happy.
Well, see, the other thing I feel is in this industry, I mean, I still consider myself as a newcomer. I feel there's a lot of prejudice and personal bias that, especially, companies and people, oh, I refuse to use this brand or that brand sucks. Whereas what you're talking about, Mick, is, how can we create something which gives people a good entry point? The thing about your kit is blocks can be replaced. Every part in that kit can be replaced, but it's a starting point. And that's where I feel like one of the things I don't like about this industry is, hey, somebody is making an attempt to build something, let's encourage them compared to, oh, how dare you not buy an EK product, or how dare you use an AMD system. So
I mean, if I had the chance, I would have replaced the block with a different block. But because I had a target of trying to get it to between 150 to 170 pounds, we had to put the block in that we could afford. You know, but that's also one of the cheapest parts to replace, because the block, when you buy a block, you can a CPU block. Literally, if you get the mounting plate, you can for years and years and years keep using that block.
Yeah.
So it's an investment in the future. You can't do that with an AEO system. You know, a lot of AEO systems, you bought it for that branded CPU, that's it, you're stuck with it. You know, it doesn't upgrade later on. And to be honest, the reason why we stuck the 60mm radiator with it is we're giving you a performance radiator out of the box.
Right. One thing I feel that all kits lack is a drain valve or some kind of ability from the kit that allows a user to add a drain valve or some kind of drain system, because if you need to upgrade something, you need a way to drain the loop. And I feel if kits include some kind of, you know, here's a drain valve, here's an extra fitting so you can add a drain valve in your system if needed, I think that would be a great addition to think about maybe.
I always consider tube reservoirs part of the drain valve, to be honest, because you can pull them off and tip them over. And if you go hard, a lot of people when they do hard loop systems, what people are saying, oh, that's fantastic, it's all hard loop. What they don't realise is behind most of the motherboard blocks or stuff like that, they've actually got a bit of flexible tube in there to drain the system. You know, people forget. You know,
yeah. No, I'm talking about from a kit point of view. You know, that's another aspect I feel that kits don't address is draining of the loop. Yes, you can upgrade things easily, but you need to be able to drain it without creating a mess.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that, but what you've got to remember is they also have a price point. So it's a drain valve. I think for a decent block and a drain valve, you're probably looking at about an extra £5 on top for
that's
maximum.
True. That's true. That's something I
maximum.
hate. Yeah, the cost on those I hate.
Yeah, drain valves. But you got Coolants and Bits Power, the most popular ones, and those are like what, $12 at least a piece or something.
Yeah. But if you look at EK's new one, they've actually got them quick disconnects. You know, so if you want a drain valve, use the quick disconnect, push your thumb up in the quick disconnect, and you can drain it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
true. Yeah.
Well, I think the bottom line here is your people don't have an excuse now, and like, oh, I can't afford it. I can't afford to have that DIY component kit, or you know, so you're trying to eliminate people from using that excuse. I mean, that's not your goal, but it's going to help from that standpoint.
Well, I mean, the other thing is we can get that delivered even to USA within 1 day. Anywhere in the USA.
That's awesome. Let me ask a question on this point of buying stuff from overseas. Okay, I mentioned this EK water block, this GP water block that I got. I got it from here in the States because I was going to order it from EK's website, which I believe their e-commerce store is in Slovenia.
Yeah.
Okay, they were going to charge $37 tax in addition to my order. Why is it that the other stores that are overseas that I order from, how come they don't charge me tax, but then EK does? Why is that? Is it because they're a manufacturer and they have to, or what?
Well, I could get into trouble here. If you send to America, you're not supposed to charge tax. Actually, the EU law states you don't charge tax. So why they're charging you tax, I don't know. If you buy from anywhere out of the European Union, you do not charge VAT, which is set at 20% in our country. I think in Slovenia it's 22%. I can't remember, but they should not charge you tax.
Okay.
Bill, they're really just dinging you in advance for the cost of shipping your replacement screws.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing: as a business that has a supply of stuff that I sell through my store, what's the reaction when I go through this experience that these screws are missing? I'm like, okay, if I'm experiencing this, somebody else is as well. So what's the solution? To now inventory them on my store, so somebody that runs into this problem, if they do a Google search, hey, maybe they'll find my store as a source to get them versus having to, you know.
Bill, this is a problem that has been a problem for EK ever since I started bringing EK into the United States years and years and years ago. This is why every single EK product got opened before it hit PTS shelves, so that we could count every screw that was included and put new bags in there, because they used those super thin bags you could like sneeze through, and so we had to replace them with new bags so they wouldn't rip apart and send hardware everywhere in shipping. And that's something a reseller shouldn't be having to do.
No,
but
you
to
don't
ensure, but to ensure the best customer experience, we did it.
Right. Yeah, because they're going to come back to you and say, "Hey, I'm missing this," and then you're like, "Oh, great." And yeah. Well, you know, that goes to quality control, because EK products are made in China, correct? Right. They're assembled. The packaging assembled there. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think the actual packaging's now assembled in Slovenia. They actually have their own. They've shown pictures of like a little assembly line, where they have women with little boxes in front of them, a little bowl of rice there. No,
Slovenian rice.
And what they do is, I think they actually package it there and then. So I think the quality control will probably be improving over the next few months. You know, so it's something that looks like they're working on.
Okay, cool. Well, Mick, something you shared with us. I don't know if you can reveal it or not. You're working on a new product. Can you share that white tubing? Can you share more details, or is that kind of under NDA at the moment?
Not really. I don't. Mayhems doesn't have NDAs. We never have done. Right. We've got the new white tubing we've got coming out next week, and basically it's been developed from the ground up in Mayhems, and it's got a property that we've never ever seen before, and that we've intentionally created. Now, a lot of people say that over a period of time, when they've not cleaned the radiators properly, or they've got some gunk in the system, it gunks up the system and causes a problem. This new white tubing we've got, which you can see here, you can see the inside of it there, right, and there, it's UV active white as well. What it does is it's a non-leaching tube, and it does not leach out any plastics whatsoever. There's no powder residue, no nothing, but it has an advantage. It sucks up crap. Is the best way of putting it. And what it will do is, if you look here, this is radiator flux. It will actually pick up the flux and withhold it inside the tubing. So basically, it will clean your fluids, and it will act like a filter for all the rubbish in your system. Now, you might turn around and say, "Oh, eventually it'll come off in clumps." But if you look very carefully, when I scratch it like that, you'll see that once it's actually held in the plastic, in the tubing, you'll see it will not come loose. It's literally caught in there, and it will stay in there. And it's also residue dyes or anything like that. It will pick them up. It won't destroy dyes, but what it will do, any dyes that you used previously in a clear coolant, it will pick them up and withhold it inside the tubing like that. And that will stay there forever. The thing is that the tubing is nice and thick, and it will last a few years, and it should never go through neither. There's a stopping point where it only leaches so far in. So basically, it's a self-cleaning new type of tubing. We've never seen anything like this ever invented before. I think we're the first in the world to do it.
Ah, cool. When will that be available on the market?
Next week. It's taken us about a year and a half. We should have had it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, but our manufacturer of the tubing in the UK, we like to use UK manufacturers if we can, was actually on holiday. So they put a stop on our production. But again, it's actually made a material that has been developed by Mayhems, and it's actually been developed locally. And it's taken us about a year and a half to manufacture it, so that's why we're a bit late releasing it.
Cool.
One of the other advantages as well is it can go up to 65C, whereas other tubing normally around about 35C to 40C. So this can actually take a higher heat load than normal types of PVC tubing. And again, it's non-leaching. It's totally 100% non-leaching. It will not leach anything into the system at all and block your box up.
Excellent. Well, before we close today, I just mentioned the chat group, and thanks everybody for joining us in chat. It's always cool to see you. We've got Richard from Mod My Mods. We've got Daz from Daz Mode, who makes the dark side liquid cooling products. I just asked if anybody had a question, but I remember that I have a question for you, Mick, today that I hope you can help me with. So a few weeks ago, I got this new chassis. ID Cooling had sent it to me, And here's what's interesting about it. First off, it looks a lot like which other manufacturer out there, guys?
Inwin.
Yeah, the D-Frame Mini. And now here's what's unique about it. It's aluminum tubing. The tubing is hollow, and one thing that some people had asked Inwin to consider is the idea of allowing liquid to flow through the tubing for people that are doing, liquid cooling builds in their D-frames. Now, ID Cooling has answered that request. However, they're using aluminum tubing, so it's bare aluminum inside. And so my question is to you, Mick, I'm going to do a build of this, and I'm going to have copper blocks on the CPU and the GPU, and then I've got aluminum tubing. I'm going to be running distilled. Well, my plan was you can't run distilled water through it, and a lot of people don't realize that. So, what type of liquid should we run through a dissimilar metal loop?
I personally would go with, well, if I'm allowed to mention my own product, I would go with XT1 Plus, which is a new type of coolant we've actually just finished developing. It will be out in about 2 weeks' time. And what it is, it's got a high level of inhibitor and biocide in it. So it will actually, you'll be able to leave it in for 2 or 3 years without ever affecting anything. It's a good idea. It's just a shame it's aluminum.
Yeah, and of course, I'm sure it was a cost thing, and I can imagine the manufacturing process to some type of plating or coating inside the tubing would have really driven up costs. And as this stands alone, like here in the States, you can only get this chassis through Newegg, and I think it was like $400, which is a lot of money. However, here's the thing that's interesting. ID Cooling is shipping it direct from the factory in Taiwan to you, and that includes free shipping for your $400 retail price. So, so you're suggesting go with Mayhem's XT1 fluid then?
Yeah, I would go for the new. We're actually bringing out a brand new fluid, which is for high heat systems, which is for triple block systems, for AEO coolants and stuff like that. It's called Mayhem's XT1 Plus. We're also bringing out a X1 Plus, but the XT1 Plus is a ethylene glycol based product with a special product in that stops it becoming a poison. And we're releasing that within the next 2 weeks. It's actually in Swift-Tech. Swift-Tech are rolling it out in their new all-in-one kits. So it's already a product that we sell out, and we're just going to start releasing it to the public.
We've got another question here from the live chat. This comes from Fishbait075, and he asks, will that crap catching tubing be available in other colors, Mick?
Yeah, but I don't think it'll pick up shit. Might have a bit of a problem there.
Let us try that out.
I mean, we can get it to some people who spew a lot of diarrhea out, definitely. Yeah, it's coming out in red and blue. We're not going to do many other colours because simply they do not sell. And it will be UV reactive red and UV reactive blue, but they will be a bit longer because they're actually harder to manufacture.
That's interesting that you bring up like which colors sell, and Daz had asked, Mick, what is your favorite color?
Mine, pink.
Pink.
Yeah, pink and purple.
Okay. And so
my partner will attest to that. I've worn many pink tutus.
Now you also, like about a year ago, started offering your own flexible tubing, and that's okay. And just clear. All right.
Yeah.
In your experience, which colors don't sell so well in tubing? You're saying red and blue do sell though.
Black doesn't sell as well. Green, purple, orange. The biggest seller is actually red, and that's because you've got Asus ROG.
Yeah.
Asus ROG, and basically, if a motherboard, what we find is if a motherboard manufacturer brings out a new color, within 6 weeks, the demand of that color doubles, or sometimes it even quadruples. So we actually, when we see a new motherboard color come out, we'll grab that motherboard and copy its color, if we can. So yeah.
Richard at Mod My Mod says that your Mayhem's clear tubing sells like crazy for modmymods.com.
We have shipped over. We've only been selling it about a year, and we have shipped in excess of 100,000 liters of it. Yeah, and again, it's really, really cheap. Again, it's one of these products that we have it manufactured for us. We developed and reinvented it. We don't physically make it. We get these guys to make it for us. So we put a very little amount of profit on it. In fact, it's ridiculous how much we don't put on. And then we pick it up, we stack it, we sell it to you lot. So it's one of the people say, how do we do it so cheap? It's simply because we sell so much of it, we don't need to go crazy on the profit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why it's so cheap. And we do consider it one of the best bits of tubing out there. And that was not, again, it wasn't an off-the-shelf product. It's something we've invented and something we get manufactured for us.
Okay. And here's another question from the chat from Lil Cousin Ruckus. Are you going to do any how-to custom dyed fluid demos?
No. What color does he want?
Which color would you like, Lil Cousin Ruckus? Now's your opportunity to mention it in the chat, and we'll pass it on to Mick. We'll wait. There's a little bit of delay with the chat.
To be honest, people send us through our support system and ask for specific colours, and what we'll do, we'll make the colour here and then tell them the formula how to make it. If you send us a picture of what you want, we will colour match it for you.
That's pretty cool.
And we've been doing that for years. A lot of the high-end modders actually get us to make the colour fluids for them, colour match them, and we'll do that. There's no extra charge. It's basically something I do when I've got a bit of spare time. It will take longer than normal because obviously our pre-manufactured colours that I make are very specific, but I will go out my way and colour match colours for you.
Cool. Well, they came up with the color and they're suggesting golden.
Golden's easy. What colour gold?
Here's another question. This comes from Messin1. Have you considered doing metallic pastel? Copper color would be great.
We've done it.
We've done it.
Yeah, it didn't sell very well, so we didn't bother doing it any further. It's easy. It's quite easy to make though. But if they want, I tell you what, if they want me to make some videos, if they send me mails to michael@mayhems.co.uk, I'll actually do a video for them.
Cool. Wow. Tell me another manufacturer that would do that for you, folks. So we got Mick here. Before we close out,
I know the manufacturer. MNPC Tech.
Yeah.
You've got to do your monkey bits where we show what we like our bits of the day sort of thing.
Look at him cutting in on that.
Yeah, there you go. I've got to do that bit because I've got my bit I want to show.
Well, if you're volunteering to go first, by all means.
Oh, definitely. Can you give me 1 second? I will go and get them. And you're not allowed to cut me off while I'm doing it. Oh, God, here we go. Are you ready?
Yep.
Right. You know when you put in fittings into blocks and all that lot, sometimes they're a bit difficult to put in. And also when you fit in O-rings into blocks, they're really difficult. Now, a lot of people will use all sorts of stuff. Well, for years, Mayhems have been using Fem Gel, which is women's lubricating products. And what it is,
can I order that on your store?
Yeah, we should start selling it. It's quite embarrassing going into the shop and buying it. But, what you get is non-smelling, non-toxic Fem lubricating products, and it's really good. It's like £1. It's £1. And what you do is you take the male end, yeah, you lubricate the male end, right, just a tiny bit on there, stick it in the female end, and it goes in really easy.
I feel like we're providing an entirely different kind of instruction here.
It goes in really easy. It's fantastic stuff there. And everybody should buy some Fem Gel.
From Mayhem.
From Mayhem. If you want, I'll put it on the store. We'll call it Mayhem's Fem Gel.
Sadly, I'm pretty sure for some of our viewers in certain areas of the United States, this has been a very educational moment.
It's fantastic though for putting your little O-rings in. So if you get one of the nice little black O-rings and that, and you want to, slip it in there, it's really good for that. It keeps it in place.
Oh yeah, I've been down that road before.
Honey, why did you order lubricating gel and tubing?
That's me.
Now,
But we
I
use it
do
here.
I do have a question for you, Mick.
Yeah.
All right. The dropper bottles. Do you
Yeah.
have a tool for putting on dropper bottle tips?
Yes, I do. I use a screw. You know the little hex screwdrivers that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pull the end off it, and you get that little hole.
Yeah.
Push that on there. It's perfect.
Okay. See, now,
Um,
had I asked you this question like 10 years ago, it would
You
have
mean when
saved
you're
my
doing
fingers a lot of
20,000
pain.
bottles? Yeah.
Every bottle of like PT New, both for the copper sulfate and the benzalkonium chloride variant, every single bottle, the stupid little dropper tip was snapped in by hand by me.
Oh, that's
Thousands
delicious.
and thousands and thousands of bottles.
Well, we did, what was it? We did something like 6,000 bottles the other week, and there's two of us sitting there doing it all. But we've actually designed a new tool. I've got a new tool I need to laser cut where it will do 500 in one go. So we
This
can
I need to see a picture of.
yeah, it's basically it's basically a compression method, and we'll do 500 because how did you used to do your bottles? One at a time?
Yeah, one at a time. Yeah.
Oh, well, we designed a tray that holds 70. So we do 70 at a time. Should have employed me, Matt.
Yeah, should have.
Should have used some fem gel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's slipping so much easier then, right?
Problem is, it also slips out easier. Did you ever get any that leaked?
No.
You never got any leaks. We get the odd bottle that leaks. When it goes on an airplane, it explodes.
Oh.
No, I've never had that issue at all, even with international air shipping.
Fucking hell.
Although I didn't have the fancy bottles that you have, you know, with the safety latch on them, and
Yeah.
No.
We get the odd one when we overfill it and it explodes in an airplane and destroys the whole shipment.
Yeah, I still have a trash can out in my garage just filled with dropper bottle parts.
Oh, flipping heck. Matt, I feel your pain.
Mick, let me ask you something. Goes back a few years, and Alex reminded me of it. Remember Ian from INH, right?
Yep.
Alex. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a time, Mick.
Ian DH. Yeah, it's Ian DH, because his name was Ian Hall.
Yeah, and he was making reservoirs and radiator grills. Mick, there was a time you had gotten into an accident,
Yes.
and you were actually considering getting out of the business, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking with Ian about possibly having him take over the business.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It was just
That was a long time ago. Yeah. The accident came onto something else, and basically hell broke loose. And it was a bit of a downer time. But I think just after that, that's when Steve came into the affray, and I ended up being partners with Steve. With Steve, he came up one day, saw what I was working on, and literally just turned around and went, "How much? Let's get this going." And that's where we worked. That's basically when Mayhem did take off from that point onwards. But we've had our ups and downs, and there's times where it gets really difficult. What a lot of people may not realise is every Mayhem's product that we make is actually handmade in our factory and they'll either touch my hands. In fact, every single product touched my hands. And last week, for instance, we shipped 3.5 tons of fluid out the door. We made and shipped 3.5 tons of fluid.
Jeez.
And that's about 3,500 bottles of fluid. But when you consider we also make concentrates, which are only 250 ml, we literally shipped about 5,000 bottles out of this factory, and we're only a small factory. And it's all handmade. The stickers are handmade. They're hand labeled. All the bottle caps are put on by hand. They're filled by hand. Everything is done by hand.
Awesome. Drew, did you have any questions before we close?
No, basically, I'm really interested in that kit, though. That's a heck of an idea.
Yeah, I figured out it comes out 159 pounds comes out to about $208 US.
Is that cheap for US?
Considering the price,
Considering the components that you're getting in it, because we had Captain Curry and we had gotten the Alpha Cool kit a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you've got the EK res, the DDC with the heatsink on it, and you've got a decent water block, and you've got the best fans on the market by far. Yeah, it's an excellent kit. Mick, can you give me an idea, like, if the kit's $208, how much am I looking at for shipping to the U.S.?
I really wouldn't know. You probably, I'd need to speak to Steve about that.
Okay.
Because he does the shipping. I mean, one of the issues that we do have is people think because they manufacture here, everything here, that it all is stored here. But what we do is every week we pick everything up and we have a warehouse and head office in Wakefield, and it all gets shipped down to there because we don't physically have the room to store it up here. And Steve runs that side of it. He runs the sales. His daughter's just taken taken over because we've got that many sales going out. And we've actually now got 2 people down there working on sales and shipping to keep up with everybody. But yeah, so if anybody asks me to send them something, it normally takes me a couple of days because I'll need to get to Steve to send it to you.
Okay, so anybody that wants to follow you or ask questions after this, where can they find you via social media, or do you have a YouTube channel, all that stuff?
You can, if you go to, well, you can also find me on the Modzu. If you send a private message, I'll actually pick that up. Or you can OCN, overclock.net. You can PM me there. Also, Michael at mayhems.co.uk. I will answer that, providing the Russians leave me alone for 5 minutes. Or you can go on our support site and actually jump on there, and most of the questions will come to me if they're complex. You can also get me on Facebook under MLWood37. You can find me on Facebook there.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Anything else, guys? Mick, is there anything you want to close out with before we go?
No, I'll tell you what. I'd like to thank all of my staff, because without my staff, we wouldn't be here. But I would also like to thank all our users, because without you guys, Mayhems would not exist. And it's simply down to you guys. You have made Mayhems, not me. Right? And if anybody ever says, and I am not special, I am a normal person like you lot, this is my hobby. It's also my job. I am very, very lucky. And it's all because of what my users have done. You know,
normal people don't put fem gel on fittings.
They do now. They do now, mate.
All right. Well, Drew, if you want to close this out.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is a little bit different than usual. Inspired by Mick here. I just got to pull something up really quick. But I'm going to start off with the usual spiel of go ahead and find us on themodzu.com. From there, you can link out to the Facebook page, the Modzu, and also cross-link to our Twitter page, which also happens to be Gasp, the Modzu. As soon as I can pull it up here, as a lot of you know, I used to be on a forum with Bill that was called Pimp Rig, and there were quite a few great little quotes that I managed to rescue from being purged, and one of them was from a user named and it's very similar to the product that Mick has shared with us here. He starts off with, I run into problems like that sometimes, and I just slap some lube on it and push harder. Talking about putting Tygon on the barbed fittings. And so, yeah, a little bit of wisdom to close us out with. So why don't you guys get out there, find that one thing that's really been irritating you, cut it up, hack it up, break it, fix it, paint it, just mod something. Would you guys? Have a good one.